Bueller. Bueller. Bueller.
All right, man. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Not much, man. I realized the last couple episodes, I just sighed at the beginning. Did you pick up on that? Like, I was just like... and I was like, oh, man, I'm doing the unthinkable with this. This is hysterical.
So you're just not going to do that now?
No.
No? Okay.
I'm actually good now.
Okay, you're good.
Yeah. What was going on this week? Anything fun?
Nothing too much other than got the old stitches out. I don't know why I keep updating on this.
People at home are like, oh, this was a movie podcast.
Yeah,
and he's like,
talking about his little
so
finger.
yeah, he's talking about my little fingy accident.
Oh, yeah, I got some stitches.
Well, I guess I could just give a quick synopsis on what not to do when you have to get stitches removed. First of all, you can probably do it yourself after I've learned.
We're not medical professionals. Don't listen to that.
So I went to the CVS thinking, okay, don't go to the emergency room because that's for emergencies. Patient first or whatever. Urgent care seems just like a little too extreme for getting stitches out. CVS does it, sure. I go in there.
Wait, they have a service.
Yeah, they have a minute clinic.
Huh.
And they'll like do suture removal.
That's pretty interesting.
So I don't know. She said, I asked her when she's doing it, how often she does it, and she said, when it's asked for. So I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna go well.
You're like, this is the first time.
Cut out 2 out of 5, and then I don't know what happened with the other ones. Maybe she got 3 out of 5. But what she did next is she took the scissors by themselves, bent my finger, and just ran the scissors up the scar, which was cool as hell to watch, and
Which
felt
like
awesome.
A $2 bill.
And she's like, and like it starts bleeding, obviously, and the look on her face was just like, oh shit, like she's never done that before. That's not what you do. So she's like, yeah, I think we're done for today. If you have any more issues, just like come back in. I was like, yeah, sure, Karen, I'll be back.
Be like, if you need the photos, I'll be up at the photo booth.
Yeah. So she's like, just rub some soap on it and wrap it, and it will.
And you definitely won't die.
Yeah. So like the stitches do come out. Like so we pulled a couple of them out, but then it looked infected. So a couple of days later, I went back to urgent care. They charged me, but sent me back to the hospital. Went back to where I got it done originally, and then so I wasted an entire half day of work going back and forth. And then the people at the hospital tried to get a little piece of stitch out, couldn't, and just said,
Didn't do it.
You're good. This isn't infected. It's just a hematoma under there.
You're just a complainer.
Yeah. So that was an epic waste of time and money. So just cut them out yourself and don't worry about any of that. You'll be fine. That's all I got.
But I'm good.
You're good. Oh, Nick, how are you? Nick.
No, it's the finger thing. It's been tough. People at work have been really invested. But
yeah, making a lot of fun of me, which is normal.
It's pretty on brand. But yeah. Other than that, nothing crazy. Other than the finger, good, cool. So what are we watching today?
The people never hear what's up with you. You always say, nothing much. And
I'm fine.
You're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
You're good.
They don't want to hear us chat before the movie. They're like, all right, buddies.
All right, guys.
Let's reel it in.
All right.
So I guess it all started about 20 years ago. No, I'm just kidding. So we are watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, woo. I guess from our wacky little intro, you might figure that out.
Yeah. Be like, do you know who really liked getting their stitches out at CVS? Ferris Bueller on his day off.
No, no, I meant our Bueller.
Oh.
Yeah, the wacky.
We'd like a several minute conversation, be like, oh, dude, that'd be great. And then I just completely forgot.
No, it's fine.
So that's good.
Yeah. We're good.
So yeah, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Do you want to dive into some of the background?
Sure. So this came out in 1986. The tagline, Leisure Rules. I thought that was awesome.
That is pretty great.
Yeah. It's directed and written by Sir John Hughes. I don't think he's actually a sir, but rest in peace.
He should be.
But he had obviously done awesome movies before and after this. He did a whole bunch of awesome teen coming of age 80s Brat Pack movies.
What one was this in his? Because he had a whole set of you said, the Brat Pack one. Was this one of his early? I thought this was actually one of his later ones.
Yeah, it is. It's it goes 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Weird Science. Then this might have been the same year.
Was this?
Hold on.
Was Pretty? No, he didn't do Pretty in Pink. He did.
He wrote Pretty in Pink.
Yeah.
He didn't direct it, but that was, I think Pretty in Pink comes right after this. I will confirm. Yeah, it went 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Weird Science. Oh, Pretty in Pink and this were the same year, and then Some Kind of Wonderful.
Nice.
But along with that, he wrote National Lampoon movies, Class Reunion, Vacation, European Vacation, and Christmas Vacation.
Oh, there's something I want to get into if we talk about John Hughes maybe at the end. Apparently he had a so because we did a Jaws episode, he had a National Lampoon Jaws. It was, the title of it was Jaws 3 People 0, like a scoreboard.
Yeah.
And it was apparently supposed to be like a comedy spin-off of like a shark movie, but I think they just dumped it. It never went anywhere, but how great would that have been?
That would have been so
really cool.
much better than Jaws 3D.
But he had a ton of stuff like around that era that just didn't get picked up or that he didn't finish.
And it's like a little unrealized section.
But that's like, I mean, that's a whole tangent in itself for John Hughes. But continue.
But I mean, he wrote this. I'm holding this Blockbuster copy of Flubber.
Yeah,
up in the case.
Flubber. That's right. That's a later one. That was under his production company, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he started one with, I can't remember the other guy that he started it with, but
he wrote Home Alone 1, 2, and 3.
And 3, which is kind of wild because they're basically all it's the same plot, I guess.
And then he did his John Candy spin, which is obviously awesome.
Which is top tier.
Yeah, so he's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
This movie is also kind of awesome.
It's confirmed awesome.
Confirmed?
So in my little research, I was telling you before we started this that I watched that little making of thing. It was basically just an interview with John Hughes. I didn't realize he wrote the script of this for Ferris Bueller's in a week. In 1 week. There's apparently, like, when he was writing it, there was a writer's strike that was getting ready to basically go into effect. And the studio was like, if anyone has a script, we're gonna go for it. And John Hughes was like, I'll be back. In a week, he came back with the entire plot, the entire script done of Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Wow. Which
Which is pretty wild.
Yeah, that's a lot of coffee, I assume.
Apparently, like, they, just as like from stuff I've heard about it, like Broderick did an interview. It was like another like making of. But apparently everyone who knew him, he was like famous for like, he'll just get an idea and basically lock himself away and just write for 20 hours a day. Which is pretty cool.
That is really cool.
But yeah, so do you want to go over the cast? Because I just brought up Matthew Broderick.
I have one little note I wanted to add in here because I didn't know this until I was just like looking at stuff yesterday. But there's a 1-season follow-up sitcom to this called Ferris Bueller.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know this.
Who did it? Was it with Matthew Broderick?
No, none of the original cast. And it doesn't take place in Chicago. It takes place in Santa Monica.
Oh, and his name wasn't Ferris. It was Kyle.
No, it was...
And he had to go to work that day.
It was Ferris, but one little thing I wanted to add, Jennifer Aniston plays Jeannie in this series. So now I'm like, oh my God.
How did that, like...
I don't know.
That's why... I've never heard of that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was any good.
I don't know. It got
Coming
canceled
soon,
after one. I kind of want to check it out, at least the pilot. The pilot. Yeah, check it out. Like, I want to see one episode of it, but
just to say you did. Yeah. Put it on the resume.
I don't know. Anyways, back to this movie.
So the cast. Do you want to go over the cast?
Sure. We got the great Matthew Broderick as Ferris Bueller, and I'm going to say this. I just thought he was in a lot of like equally or almost awesome movies after this.
Is this about to be a hot take?
It's not. I mean, it's not as crazy. It's not. He's not as many good things as you would think.
I think the ones that were great were awesome.
Yeah.
But then he just did a lot of his big thing. I mean, he was on Broadway for a billion years. I mean, he's like a trained theater actor.
He did the producers, right?
Yeah. But I was looking down his list of what he's appeared in, and for every movie, I would say there's probably one Broadway show that he was in, like on Broadway, not like off Broadway, or did like this little local thing that he tried. It was like cast in a Broadway production for like a year or two.
Because he's in Glory, which is awesome.
Yeah, that is a really good movie. Yeah. Was it Civil War?
Yeah,
that's classic. That's a
him
classic
and Denzel.
Movie. Yeah, that's another movie that we should do.
That's a good one.
On.
Yeah,
War Games
that came out before this one, and then people at work were talking about the ladies at work were talking about Biloxi Blues, which I haven't seen. That's like a military comedy that he's in.
Oh, that's pretty wild.
It's him and Christopher Walken. I'm like, well, that's getting added to the list.
Hey, Ferris. Why are you going to school? But anyway, with the cast of this movie.
But he also was in Deck the Halls, great Christmas movies.
Oh, with
him
Arnold.
No, that's
No, that's Jingle All the Way.
Jingle All the Way.
Jingle All the Way.
Deck the Halls stars Danny DeVito, their neighbors.
That's right, and he's trying to get his
Oh my
house
God.
seen from space.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's in other good things, but that's the movie I really
This
like.
has been a really bang-up episode so
Yeah,
far.
sorry, guys. Alan Ruck plays Cameron, his best friend, and he was in Spin City for a while. He's also, I want to throw that, he's in Kicking It Old School, which is the Jamie Kennedy movie. I just want to throw that out there.
He was also in Succession, too, which just recently ended.
HBO show.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway.
And then Mia Sara plays Sloane Peterson, the one and only. She's actually the Princess Lily in Legend. Have you seen that?
Legend?
With him, it's her and Tom Cruise, and Tim Curry's the demon, the devil.
That sounds really familiar.
Oh, yeah. She's in that.
That's pretty wild.
And then Jennifer Grey plays Ferris's sister, Jeannie.
She's been in everything.
She was Baby in Dirty Dancing.
Dirty
right
Dancing,
after this.
famously.
And
Yeah.
then I didn't mean to play footsies with you. That was an accident. And then
Just
the
a
one
little behind the scenes.
it
Live-
happened, so I
live in
figured I'd
concert.
address it for all
You
of
actually
our-
kicked my knee. It wasn't
was your
even my
knee?
foot. I think you were trying to, the
I-
dancing took
yeah, I don't
over.
know.
Little Patrick Swayze came out, you know what I mean?
And then the wonderful Jeffrey Jones plays the dean of students, Edward Rooney, and you can catch him in Beetlejuice. It's a good role.
That's
in that.
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And
I
then
think that's the...
Well, can we throw?
That's
Edie,
like the main
Can we
cast,
throw
right?
Edie McClurg in there because she plays? A
Oh,
wonderful
yeah.
Grace.
The school secretary.
She's in like 50 movies probably.
She's so good.
Oh my
She was
God.
perfectly cast for her role in that.
Oh my
The
God.
quotes that she has alone are incredible. And then Charlie Sheen as Garth Volbeck.
Yeah, I wrote that down too because you don't know his name in it, but I'm just
He was
so
credited
glad
as
that
as
they
Garth.
wrote that his name out. I was like, that name
Yeah.
is hilarious for his character.
He ends up being a pretty pivotal. As I was watching this movie, he is actually the reason why Ferris doesn't have to repeat,
Yeah.
12th grade,
'Cause-
high school, because he convinces Jeannie to be like, "We'll get into it.
Yeah.
We'll get into it."
Yeah,
But-
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, he's the reason. Charlie
Yeah.
Sheen, Carlos
Charlie Sheen.
Estevez is the
His
reason.
eyes are like a raccoon.
Yeah, it's so good. And then who is? Oh, Ben Stein was the
Oh, yeah.
economics teacher
He's the
who did the
economics teacher.
famous, Bueller line.
Yeah,
Um,
which we butchered during
yeah.
the beginning of
Oh,
this.
that was
so
awful.
sorry about that.
Our listeners, it's going to be like 1% of people made it past 2 seconds.
Like,
of this.
they're doing that. They're doing it this way. Okay,
Be like,
cool.
oh, real original guys, huh? 2 dudes doing a podcast.
Yeah, we'll see if that sticks. We might scrap that. And I also have that John Hughes had a small cameo running between cabs. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you picked up on it. I just
did.
saw the note.
I did. It was when do you know? Well, when they're leaving the restaurant. and
Yeah, I know
Ferris's
the
dad-
scene, but I didn't pick up on it.
Yeah, he basically cuts in between them. The only reason I knew that is I think I must have read that or something, and then I looked for it when I was rewatching it.
That's cool.
and
I love little things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
and that's
it.
basically the bulk of the cast. I think everybody else is kind of secondary. Cool. Do you want to? Should we just
get into it?
Basically, this movie is about a guy Ferris, last name Bueller, first name Ferris. Just takes the day off,
Yeah.
All right, see you guys next week. Yeah, he doesn't want to go to school, but I think so. The movie opens up, and it's him, I guess, pretending to be sick in bed.
I just love how it opens. It's a beautiful day in Chicago. It's like the radio opening.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
man, I just love how that opens. And then, it goes right to him in bed.
In bed, and I pointed out that the first scene, like when he's actually laying in bed, he looks like a dead body, and he did a great job doing it. But he's staying home from school. I don't know. I think after his parents leave is when he first says some dialogue. It opens up with him
He's
laying in bed, like dying.
But the dialogue he does have when his parents are there, it is oh my god, the baby talk. He's like, Papa,
He's like, I can't see.
I get up.
Yeah.
And then his sister walks in to be like,
Oh, and he gives him the
yeah,
wink.
right. And
Yeah.
he's like, I can't see that for her. Jeannie, is that you?
Yeah. He's like totally
And
overselling
she's so
it.
pissed. She's like, what? No way, this is working.
Yeah, and his parents are like are absolutely eating it up.
And they're like, well, one thing I have here, they say to him, they're like, yeah, hey Ferris, if you need anything, give us a call. He's like, ringy dingy, me. And I'm just like, how the hell Or
yeah,
they,
he reverts back to 2
and they're
years
just
old.
like, they're like, oh, he's just doing baby talk. That means he's sick for sure.
Yeah.
This all checks out. Okay.
So his parents leave. It seems like they bought it. His sister is clearly not buying it. They leave. And then you basically find out, okay, he is now not sick. Springs up out of bed, and I think one of his first lines is, "Life moves pretty fast. If you don't wait around, you're gonna miss it." Do you have the exact quote there?
Yeah, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around every once in a while, you might miss it.
Yeah. And then then he's basically up. He's decided he's going to take the day for himself. Says he has what was the test that he had that he was skipping?
Oh,
and he was
European socialism.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I have to go in for a test, and his parents are like, no. And then he gets up, and he's like, I really did have that test, but I really don't want to go take it. Yeah, and then he starts his little morning routine.
Oh yeah,
Getting ready.
So he's in the shower and he starts singing Dankeschön, and like
Foreshadowing.
that's cool because it comes back multiple times throughout the movie, and I like that because I mean the first time you see it, you probably don't really pick up on it, but that's like it obviously feeds into like a way bigger scene later. But yeah, he's just, and I love how he's just talking to the camera the whole time. Like whenever it's just
they
you
break
and
the
him,
third wall a lot
Yeah.
in this movie, which I thought was really cool.
and he'll like look right at the camera and he'll be talking to you, like giving you advice. Like
Yeah.
he gives you advice on how to stay homesick.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that kills me.
So early on, kind of in this whole montage of him getting ready, he also says, why is he staying home and stuff like that? And he said, I wanted a car. He basically is bitching that he doesn't have a car the whole time. So he logs on kind of separately. He's doing his little morning routine. Separately, it flashes to the dean of students, Ed Rooney. And he basically is like, oh shit, like this kid's, like Ferris is out again. Like what? And you find out through his famous line that he's been absent 9 times. And kind of while he's doing that, you can see Ferris. He doesn't seem to be bothered by this fact. He's twiddling about on his computer, hacks into the system, and bumps it down to 2 times. And then he says a really good line of, I wanted a car, I got a computer. What are you going to do? And I just thought that was really awesome.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so we meet Cameron as well, his best friend.
Yeah, he calls him up. Apparently his friend is also staying home, seemingly actually sick,
Yeah.
but
So he's sick until he's not, which I don't understand if he's ever actually sick or he just also wanted to stay home, but he really committed to the bit. Like,
well, Ferris has a great line that Ferris says is Cameron feels better when he's sick because he doesn't have to do anything. And so something that I thought was really funny that I wanted to note, when they flash over to Cameron, this is after, again, Ferris has gotten himself together and he's basically hacked into the school mainframe and set himself up nicely. It flashes over to Cameron, and the music that's playing in the background is like, it just drops the mood instantly.
Oh, yeah.
And Cameron's got his little blanket up to his face. He's like, I'm sick, Ferris. I can't come out. He's just such a...
he's laying there stiff as a board like a corpse.
Yeah.
In somehow the nicest bedroom of all time.
Yeah. Well, his parents are like loaded,
Yeah.
is what you find out later on.
So he's sitting there, and Ferris is by the pool with like a Caribbean drink, but it looks like it's just iced tea.
Yeah.
And
He's just living it up at home on his
yeah.
big day off. So he eventually persuades Cam to help Ferris. He basically wants to try and get his girlfriend out, and he wants them all to go out and have this big day together. So you flash to Sloane, his girlfriend. You meet his girlfriend, portrayed by who I can't remember. I already forgot. Mia Sara. So it flashes to her. And then you see that you get a nice little couple lines from what's his name, the teacher again.
Oh, Ben Stein.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And he's just doing it, just droning on, and you see her for the first time. His class is interrupted midway by the nurse, and you find out that out of nowhere, allegedly her grandmother died. It's so sad.
But you also notice that Sloane already knows the deal.
Yeah,
Before their nurse even says anything, she's putting her little cowgirl jacket on.
Yeah,
like,
she's
oh,
already.
okay. She knows
the scam, and so they have to go pick Sloane up. So this is where you see the car for the first time if you've seen this movie. You find out Cam's parents are very wealthy. They have what was the car? What year was it? Oh, it's a
61.
A 1961 Ferrari 200 GT California is what the car is. It's the classic red Ferrari, and basically the whole thing is, I can't go to get her in like your car. It sucks. Like, and Cam has a really good line where he's like, he says something about how Cam's car is a piece of crap, and he's like, hey man, you have a car though. Like, it's a piece of crap, but you have one.
But yeah, then Ferris coerces Cameron to let him take the car, to let him drive the car, even though he knows he can't.
No, Ferris steals the car.
He steals it. Yeah,
I'd like the record to show. So this is a separate thing. It's really tough to know whether or not Ferris is a good dude in this movie, and I still don't know. He has a lot of really good parts, but this is like a classic. Like, he's very clearly trying to like, he has his own agenda at hand. I think he knows Cam's gonna have a good time, but at this time you're kind of like, dude, you're being kind of a dick, man. What are you doing?
Yeah,
like,
I see a little bit of both ways. As we get through this, we'll talk about it more. But
yeah,
it's, he's definitely being kind of a dickhead and just making everyone kind of bend to his will to have that crazy excellent day. So he gets the car. He has no car. He gets the car, and then they just obviously... And
they hit the town. So actually, I wanted to note something about the car, so the 61 Ferrari. So apparently, the 61 Ferrari 250 GT California, there's only 56 of them that were ever made. They did... this was in like a little behind-the-scenes thing that I stumbled upon. When they were going to buy it, the production company was going to buy the car, because they were like, how cool would this be, like, if we actually were able to, drive the real car. But it turns out it would have cost them $350,000 to buy the car. They couldn't rent it because they weren't allowed to drive it if they rented it. So they ended up making 3 replicas, which were, what were they? I think they were Mustangs that basically had, like, do you know what, like, a kit car is?
Yeah.
So basically they had, like, a Ferrari kit, and they're just, like, 3 imitation Ferraris. And apparently they had like all sorts of problems with them, and it was just a huge shit show. The one scene they actually called out, which we'll get to it. When they're at the garage and the guy drives up, he like pulls and hands him the keys. Apparently, like, they were supposed to take the keys, get in the car, and then start it up again. They had to do it like 15 times because they kept turning the motor off, and then the car just wouldn't start for like 20 minutes. That was kind of wild.
This goddamn replica car.
Yeah, and they were just like, that's just what we had to do. I also found out that they had one of the replicas, like, still, like, from the movie, and it sold in auction a couple years ago for $400,000. And it was, like, one of the Ferris Bueller Ferraris, quote unquote, but it was obviously a replica. And those are my notes about cars. So my dad and brother who work with cars are going to be thrilled that I pulled that out of nowhere. So, yeah. But anyway, continue with this story.
I did read also along with that the actual car, like, I don't think it's the car that they actually were able to use for like certain cutscenes, or because they used the actual car for certain scenes. They were able to get.
No, they were. I didn't see that I mean, I could be wrong though.
Oh, I thought they were not for any driving scenes, but they were able to get like actual shots of the car. That's what he wanted.
Yeah, they said that they basically couldn't even get the car to shoot. But
they said that car last time it went to auction, like the original car, like one of the
like an actual actual 61 like Ferrari.
It sold, and like the inflated value was like somewhere, I forget.
I think of it
$20 million or something like that.
That's pretty wild.
Like one of the actual original.
I have
56.
to imagine that this movie, like,
yeah.
Could you imagine every dipshit that was like a super rich, like if Jeff Bezos was alive? Jeff, I cannot emphasize enough. Please do not sue us on this one.
All right, we're gonna edit that as Schmef shows, and then we'll be fine.
From schmamazon.com.
Yeah, like, they'll never know.
They'll never know. But yeah, I have to imagine that this movie kind of just bumped that up in value. But anyway, so they go, and then they pick up. I guess where were we? They pick up Sloane from school, right?
Yeah. So they already butcher that anyways, because they're trying. They call in first.
Before they go and
Mr.
pick her up,
Peterson, which is a whole crazy thing.
He's like, "Pardon me, sir."
Yeah, they call in as
Sloane's
Mr. Peterson,
pretend parent. Yeah.
But Cameron fumbles a bag and says, like, "You better be out front, with Sloane." And
Ferris
like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
He said, we
like, "You
can't pick her
dipshit."
up now.
Yeah.
So they show up, a bus rolls by, and then the car is there, and then you have Ferris there.
In like an
a trench
Inspector
coat.
Gadget.
Yeah, he looks like Inspector Gadget, which he
does play later on. Yeah, he does look like that.
So from
that's
far
really
away,
funny,
I guess Rooney's just like, oh, okay. He's already walking on eggshell. He's like, all right, I guess that's your dad, so you can go.
Do you remember? It's like Rooney and her standing there, and like she is clearly not sad because her grandmom didn't really die. Do you remember? Did you hear any of the dialogue that Rooney's telling her? He's like, in times of great stress, the human spirit will. And he's just like mumbling for like 10 minutes. And then when Ferris gets there, right before she leaves, she's like, oh, I guess that's my dad. And she turns to him and goes, thank you, Mr. Rooney. You're a really like beautiful soul or something like that. And he's like, thank you. It was just such a dumb, like, you can tell that he was super proud of himself for being like, damn, I'm an educator. This is wild.
So the bus rolls by, and and then she goes out, and then as she walks up, he says to her, kiss for daddy? And she goes, you can't be serious. And then they just start. Yeah,
this was Ferris saying kiss for daddy to Sloane while the principal's standing there.
And so he's just looking in disgust. He's like, that's how they do things in that family.
That's such a great line. I found out a lot that scene, so that like that kiss or whatever. Hughes was really big on, like, they did a lot of stuff in post. So like that kiss, he said that it was basically just like a quick peck, but the way he was able to play with like the camera angles and stuff like that, they stitched like a bunch of shots together to make it seem like it was like a pretty involved thing, which I thought was kind of wild. Like that's again, John Hughes was a genius because he wrote it, directed it, and produced it, so he could kind of get away with shit like that. Yeah, I thought that was funny. So now they're in the car, all three of them,
right?
And she knows Cameron's there. She's like, "Hey, Cam," and he's hidden like in the back. He's like, "Hi." He is so concerned the whole time.
Oh yeah,
it was pretty great.
Well, they're in his father's prized possession that he cleans with a diaper.
Yeah, what was he had a really good line about, he's like, he loves this car more than I do.
He's like, he loves this car more than life itself.
Yeah, more than life itself. Yeah. But anyway, so from here on out, there's kind of we've been doing this for a couple of the episodes now. There's almost two parts of the movie, or two plots that start to develop. So on one side, it's Ferris, Cam, and Sloane just like having the best day ever. They're just going out and doing everything. And on the other side, Rooney is like, she's involved somehow with they're all involved together. Sloane's involved with this. He's not actually sick. I just know it somehow. And then do you have the quote that his secretary says? Do you remember that?
What about?
Yeah. He's like, they're in his office kind of separately. And he's like, I think Ferris is involved in this with Sloane's grandmother. And the secretary goes, oh, yeah, I guess her grandmother is too.
She's
dead.
It says, you pinhead.
It's so good. But yeah, I just thought that was pretty good. So where do they go from here?
Oh, yeah. So then they go right to the parking garage because they go downtown Chicago. So supposedly this is like John Hughes' love letter Chicago.
He used to work there too.
Yeah,
he was in advertising in Chicago.
So he loves Chicago. So
I almost said I think, but like I knew that for a fact. I'm like, oh yeah, he grew up in this specific room. I think. You're like, no, you can't say that. So he worked in Chicago. So they're in downtown Chicago.
Yeah, so they go and they're like, they have to park the car, and Cameron's obviously, he's like, come on, we have to do something else. We can't just leave this car here. We're gonna leave it here with this guy. And
a famous line that Cam says is that his dad knows the exact mileage. He knows the exact mileage of what the car is, and Ferris keeps saying like, yeah, we'll just put it in reverse and we'll roll it off. It'll be no big deal. So they're at the garage.
So they drop it off, and the guy reassures them that, oh, everything will be fine.
Oh, this is the dirtiest looking guy I've ever seen. He's got like the awful facial hair, and it's just that guy.
So Cam they finally get Cam to go along with it, and they get out of there. But they show it. They show the car immediately as they're walking down the street. They see the car. You see the car just peel out behind them. You're like, oh no.
Yeah. His buddy like jumps in, and they're fucking gone.
So Paramount Plus is actually doing a spinoff called. I think it's coming out either this year or next year. It's called. I had it. I thought I had it up. Okay, well, I forget what it's called, but it's basically their day off. Those two guys.
Oh, those two guys.
Yeah,
That's
it's like
really
a
funny.
follow-on.
Did they get? Are they like going to get them to? Are they getting them to sign up for it or
I
not?
don't know anything about it. I just saw it recent. I had seen a note about it.
Yeah.
I can't find it now, but yeah. So that's
pretty funny.
Yeah.
It seems like they had a great day. I love they like a couple times throughout it, or I guess it's just the one time they flashed to it, and it is a little later on. And they were like, "Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, like this is fine. We'll have the car back. Everything will be great." And then it like flashes to the two guys.
Oh yeah.
Just fucking flying through the air.
Yeah.
And they're
Star
just
Wars
like the
music
biggest
hits.
smiles on their face, and you're like, I just want what they have. That's so nice. But so yeah, then they instantly just fucking peel out. So now that's the three of them taking on Chicago.
Yeah, they basically go on like a tour, just like a nice.
Oh yeah, it's like a walking tour of Chicago.
Yeah, they hit the Sears Tower.
Yeah, the Art Institute of Chicago, which is one of my favorite scenes. Do you remember when all the little kids are walking, holding hands, and then it's just the three of them, and then so they're walking around, and it flashes to Cam just like having a moment with this painting.
He just stares at it.
Yeah, and it zooms in on the painting, and it zooms in on Cam, and it zooms in on the painting, and then back at Cam, and I can't remember what paint. Do you know? I mean, you know that painting, right? Like, do you remember what it is?
Yeah, I did see the note of it, but I do not know exactly what it is.
Yeah, I can't.
Come back to me on that.
I can't remember.
Come back.
So they have the Art Institute. They go to Art Institute. They go to the Cubs game. They go to a Cubs game. They go to a restaurant.
The Shakui, I think it's called.
Yeah. So at the restaurant, there's like a really good dialogue where he's basically, so throughout this movie, you find out that Ferris, I think, just gets away with a lot of shit because he's so confident in everything that he does.
Oh yeah.
So he's they're at this really fancy restaurant, and they're trying to get a table, and Cam the whole time is like, I have such horrible heartburn and I just want to go home. And he's just a wreck. So they're trying to get a table at this really, really fancy restaurant. Ferris goes up there, looks at the guest book, and is like, I got this. This will be fine. So he tells the guy, what was it? I don't even remember the name.
He says he's Abe Froman, the Sausage King of Chicago.
Yeah, he's like, party for Froman 3.
Yeah, he basically just looks at
He's like, you're Abe Froman, Sausage King of Chicago. And he's like, yep, that's me. And then he does a really good, I guess, series of dialogue after that is when he's like, are you saying I'm not who I say I am? And he starts getting like really loud. And he's like, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to do it. You're going to seat me. I am the Sausage King of Chicago. And then basically he calls the dude's bluff, and the guy gets all panicked and goes and picks up the phone, and it turns out that it's Sloane on the other end, asking to speak to the guy. And she's like, "Oh, I'm here for a party of Froman. Like, can you see if he's there for me?" And he's like, "Why don't you describe him?" And she describes Ferris, like what he's dressed in, which the costumes in this movie is awesome. His with the vest and the leather jacket and stuff.
Yeah, he's got a leather jacket and a vest, a white t-shirt or whatever she says, and you can see the dude's just like, they've somehow bewildered this guy. They've ruined this guy's day.
Yeah, and so they're sitting them, and it's just, as you watch this, there's so many quotes that are kind of in all these events, but if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. He's such I don't want to say con artist, because he is, but he is a con artist. Like, he's 1,000% a con artist.
The way that they manipulate this guy, I didn't really realize how crazy it was till the last time.
This guy's going to be talking about this in therapy for years to come. This guy's going to be.
They tell him
in shambles
that they're calling the police, so that he has to go use another phone. And when they do that, they get him. They basically get him on the other line. Like, it's crazy how they do that.
But I'm telling you, the whole movie, it's just because he's a confident dude.
Oh, yeah.
It's just because Ferris is a confident. He's got that little vest on. It gives him power, I think. I don't know. I don't know what it is. And then so they're at the. This is where you also see his dad
for the first time.
Well,
since the beginning.
The beginning. So his dad is also like out in Chicago. His dad works in Chicago, and so he's now trying to dodge Rooney. And he's trying to dodge his dad in downtown.
He's in the bathroom telling. Is he telling us, or is he?
He's telling us. Yeah. So this is another time where Ferris is like talking to the camera.
And then as he comes out, you then see his dad come out of the stall, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, and you're like, God damn it, this is about to be all
And he
foiled.
goes, out of 4,000 restaurants, how did I pick the one restaurant my dad was going to be at?
Yeah, it is really good timing.
And they basically just steal his. They kind of like his dad's talking to some other business people out front, so they kind of sneak by him, steal his cab while he doesn't notice, and then another cab pulls up, so
And they
just
sneak in.
sneak out. Yeah, it was so good.
So then, again, there's kind of multiple storylines that are developing. So we have the Rooney side saga. We have of him trying to find Ferris. I kind of think of that as like the back at the school. It flashes over to like what his sister's doing.
Oh yeah.
And she's just like
so
they're having
pissed.
the best day ever, and they flash back to the school, and it's just his sister, and everyone's like, I hear your brother, he's like dying. Like this is wild.
Somehow Ferris has this spreading.
Yeah, well, in the very beginning, he's calling people.
Yeah.
He's basically just calls a payphone at school, and he's talking to he says, he's telling this one girl, he's like, yeah, I think it might be pretty serious. I might need a kidney transplant. And then he like puts his hand over the phone, and he's like, freshman, and then just keeps talking to him. So, basically, like word is getting around, like fake word, but that he's like deathly ill, and so you start to see little all over the city too of like save Ferris. That's where that starts to pop up. But his sister is just like not buying it one bit the whole time. She's just the theme of her is like she's super angry and then she's not, and that's her like character arc, I guess.
Yeah, she's very jealous of how confident everything works out for Ferris. She
Yeah.
even says, why should he be able to do anything he wants? Why does everything work out for him? Screw him.
Screw him. And then she ditches school. She's like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm out.
Yeah.
But she does say, again, back to an earlier line where he was like, I wanted a car, but I got a computer. And she goes, I mean, I did get the car. So that's kind of... but you find out that like that, he still has truly everything.
But yeah, and then this is where we see that Rooney is now left school.
Yeah, he is
on
out
the
and
case.
about. Can we go back to the Ferris, them in the city real quick?
Yeah.
I think we skipped over it, but when they went to the Cubs game, and they're just like in the stadium.
Oh yeah.
So it was a cool little fact. So they're at a Cubs game, and it's the middle of the day, and Ferris goes, like, oh, he looks at his watch. He's like, we'd be in gym right now, and they all kind of laugh to each other. But there's a scene that where Cam is going, he Kennedy.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So that was that line was improvised. That he Kennedy. He said him and kids that he grew up with all used to say that when they were at like when they would play baseball together, like with kids in the neighborhood. And John Hughes was like, just like you're at a game with your friend, just kind of like go. And so he was just like, eat Kennedy. And he's like, then I had to explain to John, like, oh, we used to do this like with my friends. But little stuff like that pops up all over this movie of like super improvised lines that I think just kind of like, I mean, that's a line that always stuck with me.
For the last 25 years, I thought he was saying Kennedy.
No.
Over and over. I mean,
he can't hit.
Well, yeah, until I watched that this last time. I saw the subtitle. I was like, oh. So
you're like, oh, he's a political guy.
I was like, Kennedy. I was like, I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was fun. I always just love the swing
batter. That's pretty good.
But yeah, right in that same time, Rooney is checking out the arcade. I guess he assumes that Ferris is at the arcade. He thinks he found Ferris. He did not.
He says,
your ass is mine.
And it's I didn't have who the actress was, but she's wearing the exact same outfit that Ferris is. And then she spits her drink in his face. But 2 seconds before, she's like drinking out of her straw, and he closes his eyes because he just knows, like, he doesn't even try and stop it.
He's like,
I'm fucking beat. This was weird. I'm in a bar. It's during the day. Or no, he's in an arcade. He's not in a bar.
Yeah, but then he walks up to the pizza guy right there, and then that's when he's like cleaning off his face, and he's like, oh, what's the score? He's like 0-0. He's like, who's winning? He's like,
he's like, Cubs.
The Bears.
Yeah. But I think that's cool. Like throughout this, you see again with Ferris's dad, with Rooney, like the baseball game is on TV, and they are at that baseball game.
Yeah, and then you see them on the screen.
And you see them on and you see them on like the jumbotron.
He's cleaning off his face. He just misses them on the screen, and you're like, holy shit!
Just a ton of these like near misses throughout the whole thing. They also go to they do the baseball game, and then they're on the stock exchange thing. Do you remember that scene? That was really good. So again, they're just all over these like random parts. And then you start to learn at that scene, they're kind of, this is where Ferris asks Sloane to marry him. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah.
Like out of nowhere, he's like, "Hey, do you want to get married?" And she's like, "Today?" And he's like, "Yeah, why not?" Like, and Cam goes like, "Oh, you shouldn't get married." And he's like, "Oh, what's your reasoning?" And she's like, we're young." And Cam goes, "I got two good reasons. My mom and my dad, they're married. They hate each other." And so like you start to, it's a very funny line, but I don't know. You feel bad for Cam. You can tell he's kicked to the side a little bit.
But that's where and then they cut to that Star Wars theme where you see the car flying. That kills
at that
me.
Scene, like after they've had their couple events.
Yeah, because that's the cool thing about this movie. It's always switching. It's like cut so cool. So like you get like a minute of what's going on, and then all of a sudden you're seeing, like you said, there's two different plots going.
Yeah,
it's like you're switching.
It's
back
like
and forth.
the day off, and then the people around it.
Like
it's
nobody,
like the two separate.
Nobody
things.
can just let them have the day off. Everybody's like trying to solve the crime.
Fucking guys trying to take a nap. Trying to take a little car nap.
So now, your boy, Edward Rooney. Oh no, you know what? I take that back. Can we cut that? Because I realized you told me this. Awesome.
No, we're not cutting this. This is amazing.
Well, I don't want.
So we're not going to say what his charges were. He's a huge scumbag.
Yeah, we always like to do a little like where are they now? But we found out maybe we shouldn't do that.
We're going to stop. That was our first and last. Where are they now?
Yeah, we don't, because sometimes you just don't want to know. You just hope, he's just lives in Florida, whatever.
He's volunteering.
He's got a Hawaiian shirt on
in a prison.
So he loses a shoe, rips his pants, and then he goes into the doggy door to find the scariest dog of all time.
Wait, where is he?
He's at Ferris's house.
Oh, he drives. Yeah. So
what I was saying is your boy.
I was like, where the hell?
No, we got lost there, but he shows up at Ferris's house.
I honestly thought we were still talking about his crime, and you were like, "Yes, we ripped his shoe." I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, I have way too much detail about this.
Yeah, I was like, "Were you there?" No, that's terrible. I'll cut that. So anyway, back on track. So Rooney. That flashes to Rooney. He's going to drive to Ferris's house and see what is going on. And then this is he rings the doorbell at first. So he gets there, rings the doorbell. And this is one of like many, like MacGyvered, like slapped together things that you can tell that he is genuinely a really smart kid, but he basically wires up the doorbell. So when it would ring, it plays like a voice track. And it's just the same thing. And Rooney totally falls for it, I guess, the first time. I'm trying to remember what he says. He's like, "I'm sorry. Due to my illness, I can't come to the door right now." And he's like, "You can reach my parents at their place of business. Thank you and have a good day."
"I'm sorry, I can't come to the door right now. I'm afraid that in my weakened condition, I could take a nasty spill on the steps and subject myself to further school absences."
Yeah, it's like totally like... he's such a cheeseball.
But then he spams the doorbell. He just hits it a bunch of times. So then it restarts. Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, it's on."
He's like, "I got you, Ferris."
So that's when he does the unthinkable of, let me just go around the back of the house and go in the dog door.
Be like, I know when I ring the doorbell and someone doesn't answer, the next logical step is breaking in through the dog door. So he tries to go in. You find out they have a dog. I don't think that was ever... I think this is the first time you see the dog,
and it's a horrifying dog.
It's a Rottweiler, right?
Yeah, but it's like juiced. They pumped that thing.
Oh my, yeah. They were like, "We need a dog." Just
is that dog on mass gainer yet? Okay, well, I got some mass gainer.
I got a dead body it can chew on, and afterwards, they were definitely feeding that thing like just pure bones and raw meat. It basically chases him out of the house. He loses his shoe. He rips his shoe. And he's not looking good.
No, he's looking like a battered traffic cone, as you would say.
Battered traffic cone, yep. And I think, so separately, a little before this scene, Jeannie, his sister, comes home. Is this where they overlap with each other?
I think that, because they go back and forth. I think that happens. That happens next, later on.
Later on, okay. So
he's
continue
already
with the story.
And then now it flashes back to them, and you see again.
This is the Ferris, Cam, and
to
Sloane.
the trio. We'll call them the trio.
The trio.
But they're in the cab right next to his dad again.
Yeah.
And he sees him, and he puts his newspaper down, looks back, and
he does a double take, and then it's just Sloane in the sunglasses.
But on his newspaper it says "Community rallies around sick youth," and that's about
and it's Ferris. Yeah.
So like he's
a very convincing boy.
Somehow we won't really talk about how that hit the newspaper since he's been sick since this morning, but we're just gonna go with it because it's hilarious.
I never even thought of that. That's why. Yeah, I never made that
Oh
connection.
my god. Yeah,
They paint like a water tower. They do and he's been home for 6 hours.
Yeah, the water tower says Save Ferris on it.
Save Ferris, yeah, which is it's also the name of a really good ska band just outside of this. If anyone listens to ska,
if you like
these
ska,
days.
talk to Nick.
Talk to me about other things first. But yeah, so he's in the cab. He almost gets his cover blown, and then afterwards, after the cab debacle, it's the trio, and this is where Cam goes, all right, can we just go home? Like, it's been all right. Like, this day's been all right. Like, nothing crazy. And Ferris says, haven't seen anything crazy. He's like, we looked at priceless pieces of art. We were on the top of it. And he's like, we ate
pancreas.
Yeah, he's like, we ate pancreas. And this is when they're kind of walking downtown, and you notice in the background that there's a parade going on.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is I almost wanted to call this the pinnacle of the movie. I think it's just the most well-known part, but there's still a lot left in the movie during this part.
Oh, yeah. But this is like one of those, like, if you've seen this movie.
Oh, yeah. This is like what they would show. Be like, Thanksgiving weekend, we got all the hits on.
Yeah, this is like in Batman 99
Yeah.
when Prince hits the street.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. Other references, too. And
It's like a parade.
your face.
All the references to movies
All
that
of
are
them.
not related to this.
So that parade, did you have what it was?
Oh, I
The
forget what it's
actual parade?
No.
It's the Von Struben Day parade. So it was an actual parade that was going on in Chicago.
I heard they actually, so they film it.
Yeah, they filmed in. They basically were like, all right, there's a parade actually going on. We're going to stop it for like X amount of time. That's when you get your shot. So all those people that were down there, like they had a couple good scenes. So basically, they're filming during this parade, and Cam and Sloane all of a sudden are like, where the hell did Ferris go? And he just pops up live in concert on the float.
And you hear dedicated to a friend of mine who thinks he hasn't seen anything today.
Yeah.
And then
that's
they
such
hear
a good line.
They hear his voice and they look up and they're like,
Yeah.
oh.
Well, that's the song. It's like, Dankeschön.
Yeah, Ted Nugent.
Yeah.
And then they're like, get off that float, Ferris. Come on, Ferris, get down.
And so basically he's, at this point, I think is when you start, personally, you're like, maybe he is kind of doing this for his friend. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, this is where
It
I
starts
go.
to turn.
This is where I was saying that he's a dipshit and he's like a little dickhead.
Ferris is a dipshit?
Well, he's a dickhead, kind of. He's kind of making everything about himself, but then
Yeah,
all of a sudden
it's
you
called
realize
Dipshit's Day Off.
you're like, you know
Until
what?
now.
At some point in this, he's trying to give
people,
Cam out of his shell. He knows Cam will not get out of his own way to have fun, so he's forcing him to have fun. He's also making it very stressful for Cam to have fun. He didn't need to
It's a very weird way
take
for him
his
to have
father's
fun.
car. They could have
Yeah.
just taken Cam's car.
His
figured it
one
out.
of 56 mint condition Ferraris or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. He could have taken his
He could have done
99
anything
Civic.
other than what he did, but
Well, this
still.
was filmed in 80 something, so whatever the 99 Civic with 3 hubcaps equivalent was back in the day.
But yeah, he kills Donka Shane up there.
Yeah.
And then he goes into Twist and Shout.
Into Twist and Shout, and everyone's going nuts.
Everybody.
So this
Construction
scene,
workers.
the construction workers and stuff like that, because it was a real parade, those were people that were just actually dancing. So they weren't extras. They were just like the window cleaner. There's the dude cleaning the window, and he's just like, he's swinging about on like that little crane thing. Yeah, that was just like a dude at work that day.
The dance troupe kills me. That they come down the steps all together.
So there was the big dance scene that was choreographed by Kenny Ortega. Do you know who that is? He's really big in the dance community. I only know this from Emily.
Okay.
So he choreographed Dirty Dancing, all the dancing in the movie Dirty Dancing, all the dancing in every High School Musical.
Wow.
Which is kind of wild. Which I know doesn't sound
You got
super
some
impressive.
stats on him.
And he did all the choreography for Newsies and like 3 or 4 other very, very famous Broadway shows. And he was good friends with John Hughes. So he choreographed that. And that dance scene where it's like all the dancers on the stairs, there was a ton of dancing they had to cut because Matthew Broderick fucked up his knee. So there was a ton of like really incredible Kenny Ortega choreography, and John Hughes was like, just fucking dump it. I don't know. He just blew out his like Matt just doesn't have his shit together. And he said all the takes were them just like doing their own thing and like not choreographed. So they felt that they needed to keep something in there because he's literally like probably one of the most famous choreographers. And they were just like, yeah, I don't know. We don't need you anymore. Never mind. So
Holy shit.
I thought that was cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, so twist and shout. Everyone's going crazy.
Even Ferris's dad.
Even you see his dad like jamming. His dad, I guess, works in downtown Chicago. His dad's like kind of grooving up in his office. And then so this after the big parade part, you flash back to Rooney, and this is where Jeannie comes home.
Yeah.
So Jeannie comes home, and Rooney is still kind of like lurking around the house. He successfully breaks in after throwing a fucking pot at the dog.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, you just see the dog just laying there with the flowers.
Yeah, he's like, come here. And he has the pot, and he's like, you piece of shit. And like wings it down, which is terrible. Yeah, so they're in the... What happens next?
Yeah, well,
they're in
Jeannie
the house,
goes.
right?
Jeannie goes upstairs. Jeannie's upstairs. She flings the door open.
Yeah, realizes that Ferris is truly full of shit.
Sees his amalgamation of like a dummy hooked to it.
That's right.
The door.
Yeah, he like rigs a
his
dummy that if you open up the door, it would look like a body is like wiggling in bed.
Yeah, she flings the door open.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
The sheet comes off. She's like, she knows.
Like, I knew it. She like yells.
Yeah. And then, but also he has a sound machine this whole time doing.
He has his stereo snoring.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
his stereo.
It's just snoring. He has like, I guess a snore track is what you would call it, which I thought was awesome. He's pretty smart in this movie.
But then Rooney also comes in the house at the same time, and she hears it.
She thinks it's Ferris.
Yeah.
And he thinks she's Ferris. And so they're like, I'm going to get this motherfucker.
So she jumps. They come to a corner. She
Oh,
jumps.
yeah.
She goes, Ferris. He jumps.
He goes,
Bueller.
Ferris. Yeah.
Ha. Yeah. Ah.
And then they
she
see
just,
each other.
She just up kicks him 3
Yeah.
times in the face and then runs. So
Yeah,
she doesn't even
just-
know it's him.
Just kicks him right in the face, runs upstairs, and then she tries to call the police.
And the first thing that they say to her is,
Yeah, she's like, hello, my name is Jeannie Ferris. She's like, what did she say? I'm really grateful that you're so concerned about my brother. So it's like,
I'm cute. I'm alone.
I'm cute.
And there's a man at my house.
She's like, I'm very protective of my body. She was so good in that role. I don't think they could have that casting was perfect.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So she calls the police, which this is really shitty. They come and arrest her for making a phony police call.
Is that like did I miss that?
Yeah, they basically he leaves the house. They tow his car away.
Yeah.
He gets a ride from a bus driver that comes by. He's basically just like walking home. So he ends up getting a ride. So he's out of their house, and then it flashes to them at like the police station. So Jeannie's sitting on the bench next to Charlie Sheen is where you see his character for the first time.
But did they show her get arrested?
No, they don't.
Okay,
But
okay, that's what I was confused about.
They're talking to her mom, and they're like,
Okay.
"Oh yeah, like your daughter's making phony police calls. Like someone's in the house. Oh, okay." Like, which is that's wild to me.
But before that though, you have I have to say this because it kills me.
Oh,
every
is this
time.
just like a quote?
The nurse that comes to the door? So someone orders Ferris like some
like
sort
a
of mail order nurse,
Some kind of weird.
but there's a bunch of like characters behind her.
Yeah.
But she says,
I heard that you. Yeah, I don't.
Wait, I think do I have it? Do I have it?
Because absolutely no one wants to hear us.
I don't think I have it, but she ends up saying,
"Oh, I heard that you were feeling ill, headache, fever, and a chill." I don't know the rest.
something, but it's the nurse who likes to.
Yeah, she's like, but I'm the. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, I heard that you were feeling ill, headache, fever, and a chill. I came to help restore your pluck because I'm the nurse who likes to. And they slam the door.
The door.
Oh my god! As a kid, I would always be like, "Oh my god, she was gonna say that."
He was gonna say it. I forgot about that. Yeah, that was like Jeannie is at the house, just like stewing, like she's pissed. So they're in the police. Flash back forward. They're in the police station, sitting next to Charlie Sheen's character.
Oh my god!
And he asks her, "So what are you in for?" And she, what do you? No, he just goes, "So what are you in for? Drugs?" She's like, "No. What are you in for?" And he just goes, "Drugs." I think that's such a great interaction.
And then I have this quote here from that same interaction, which says, "If you say Ferris Bueller, you lose a testicle." And he goes, "Oh, so you know him?"
Yeah, she's so again, I think we said this a little earlier on, but Charlie Sheen, like, in his small amount of time on screen, has a pretty big impact to the story. So she's going on about like, my brother, he always gets what he wants. He's always just like blah blah blah. Like, she's basically just like bitching to this total stranger. And he goes, I think you maybe like need to take, stop worrying about what other people are doing and just worry about your own life. And he's like, you know what? I have someone you could talk who could, you'd really benefit from talking to. And she goes, if you say Ferris Bueller, and he goes, oh yeah, you know him. That's such a good line. What does she say? He said, if you say Ferris Bueller,
you lose a testicle.
You lose a testicle.
I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But our trio is waiting for their car, and it pulls back around, and they immediately look at the mileage, and they started with 126, and now it has like 301 miles.
Yeah.
And Cameron just goes into like a catatonic.
Shock. What did I say? I didn't realize that it was like the 10th of a mile.
Yeah, you thought it was 3,000 miles.
Yeah, and we were like at work, and I was like, Keith, you're so dumb. You don't know what you're talking about. and I was stupid.
No, but you got to tell people what we
mapped out,
what your brain did when you thought it went from 126 miles to 3,000
to like 3,000 something. So the difference, but went from my 3,000 whatever number to the original number of what it was, like 126, something like that. The difference was almost exactly to the mile the distance of the continental United States from coast to coast. And I thought it was funny because they were like, oh, they're not going to drive it across country. Like, how far do you think they could go? And I thought they did that on purpose. And I was like, I paused it. I took a walk around the neighborhood. I was like, I'm on to something big. I just cracked the case. And then apparently due to lack of attention to detail, I was not correct. But
yeah, but I just like that because he presented this to me at work. He's like, "You're not gonna believe this. I got something juicy."
I was like, did like a look over your shoulder, like,
yeah, you did, you did that.
I was like, dude, come here. I was like, yo,
and I wanted you to be right so bad, but as soon as you said the number, I was like, dude, that's way off.
I think I handled it pretty well by getting super defensive almost instantly.
You're like, no, I swear, and I was like, dude,
I like angrily looked it up. Too. I was like, we're gonna get to the bottom of this.
I was like, brother, I think that last digit is probably the 10th.
Yeah.
Like, think about it.
Yeah.
And he's like,
and I was like, dude, I have a car. I know what I'm talking about. It did not.
I was like, damn, I don't have a car.
Similar to Ferris.
So
now we're back to the trio.
And
they find out
they're trying to reverse the mileage now.
Yeah. So they're trying to.
Oh wait, no, we missed. Yeah.
So Cam goes into a catatonic state, and they're trying to calm him down, but Cam's just sitting on the diving board. They're back at the pool. And they're like, Cam, it's okay. And Sloane and Ferris are just like in a hot tub. And they're like, hey, it's all right. You're good. And they're just like still like just chilling. And what does Sloane say? She says something really funny. She's like, Cameron, I can freak out real bad too. Like, it's okay. And then Cam, he's sitting on the diving board just staring into the water. And then he just tilts forward and plump.
And he goes and sits at the bottom of the pool.
Yeah.
And then Ferris comes to his rescue.
Oh, and he's trying to wake him up, and then he opens up his eye. Cam opens his eyes, and he smiles. And is this what? Do you have the line?
Ferris Bueller, you're my hero.
And you can tell that he's just like, I think that's the first time you've seen Cam like actually start to joke around and be like, we're in it now. Like, it is what it is. And then there's a kind of a funny line, and Sloane is like, so Cameron, you were awake that whole time. You weren't just catatonic. And he's like, yeah, pretty much. She's like, so did you see me change? And he just smiles. And
you're does like, the eyes and smiles.
Yeah.
Did you see me change him by the pool? And he's like,
by the pool. And you're like, oh man. Like, I just thought that was I feel that line is a very like silly 80s movie type situation, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's not great in today's lens, but it's a pretty good line. And then where do they go from here? So they're trying to take the miles off the car. So they're back in Cam's garage where they had it. They have it. So that jack that they have it up in, that's like an actual like jack. It's just like a really old looking one. But they have it up, and they're trying to roll it back in reverse to take the miles off, which is, I don't know why they thought that would do it.
Yeah, Ferris tells them this is what they're going to do earlier, and
there's
Cameron
no
just says, "Oh, okay."
He's like,
"Oh, yeah." Oh, it sounds like you know what you're talking about.
He's like, "Yeah, I love cars."
But yeah,
Doesn't
so
work.
they're at
Not even a little
316 miles, and it is just sitting at 316. It's not going. So then
Yeah.
Ferris says, "Oh, we'll just crack open the odometer and spin it back by hand. No
Yeah.
problem."
And this is kind of that is a pretty funny line that he's so casual about cracking open I can't reiterate this enough. A 1 of 56 pristine Ferrari, cracking open the odometer to roll it back. But at this point, this is where Cam has kind of his big meltdown, where he's just like, I think he's just overwhelmed by the situation. I don't know what else would you call it. And he's basically just like, you know what, like he's gonna have to come home. Like he's gonna come home. Like I'm just so sick of this car and like my dad and I can't remember what he says. He's like, oh yeah, Dad, who do you love, me or the car? And he starts kicking the front of it, and they're like, fuck, Cam.
Yeah, he starts going ballistic. He's kicking the grill in, breaking the lights.
Yeah, and he's like, oh shit. He's like, he's like, well, I guess there's no way to. What did he say? He's like, can't hide this.
It's like, to hell with him. I can't wait to see the look on the bastard's face. And you're like, okay. But every time he does it, that jack is just moving slightly. And then you see it's like tilted, and you're like, oh no. Yeah. And then he just puts his foot on it one more time.
Yeah, and the car is they're still trying to take the miles off. So hits the ground, does basically a standing burnout, and flies out of the window because it was in reverse. So actually, I had a note about that too. Apparently, like, they had that car that crashes into there. They had it do like a burnout. They stopped, and they put another car there that was just the frame, just the fiberglass frame, and they had like a pulley system that was out of the back of the window down, like a bunch of little pulleys all the way around the front of the house, and there was a tow truck that like floored it to pull the car through the window to make it look like it just like flew off. And I was like, why? That is like, he said it was not close. Cause the fucking garage is in like a ravine.
Yeah.
Which I just thought that was so cool.
Yeah. I heard that. I saw part of that about the replicas, and that replica, they had a couple kits. That one they could never get to start. So they had to use it for just the Destructo mode, I guess.
Just like, this one's just...
I didn't know that it really didn't start ever, so they
said it was just basically like a frame that really was just... And they just fucking yanked it out of the window, which I thought was so cool.
Oh, you just see the car sitting there, and he's like, it's gone.
Yeah, and he's...
killed the car.
Cam goes... Yeah, it blows out of the window, and Cam, I think Ferris and Sloan are like up by the window, so they can clearly see that this car is fucked. And Cam just goes, what did I do? And they go, you killed the car. And it's basically just a pancake on the ground. Yeah, I thought it was just such that's another classic scene. But this is I guess another kind of defining moment for Cameron, and he's basically like, no, this is fine. I'm finally gonna have to, like, my dad will have to, he says, my dad will come home, he'll see this, like, I can't hide this, he'll have to deal with me. And Ferris is like, no, dude, just tell him it was me. He has a funny line. He said, your dad already hates me. Which I was like, yeah, but you're going to be in jail if you tell him that you just did this to his fucking car. And Cam is basically comes to terms with it. And you can kind of tell this is actually his last scenes in the movie, which I forgot about. He dumps the car, and then he's like, are you sure? Ferris goes, are you sure that you can deal with this? And Cam is just like, yeah, I got this. Don't worry about it. And that's the end of Cam. You don't see him.
Oh, that's right.
Again, because it's almost time for...
Now you have the great chase.
Yeah, so now Ferris is like, fuck, what time is it? I have to be home. And then now...
Yeah, so they allude to that earlier. They're saying, don't worry, Cam, we have until 6. They says that earlier in the movie, and then he looks at his watch, and it's 5 to 6. It's like... He's like, oh, no. So then he has to race home. And then at the same time, Jeannie gets out of the police station. Her mom has just lifted her. She has a weird...
After making out with Charlie Sheen.
She has a nice makeout scene. But that makeout scene really saved... That saved
saved Ferris.
Yeah.
So
Jeannie actually saved Ferris.
Yeah.
Or I guess Charlie Sheen, you said.
Charlie Sheen. I'm going to say Charlie Sheen saved Ferris.
Yeah, Charlie Sheen did.
Just give her no credit to this. That's wild. She has a really great line after they're like basically making out. And he goes, he's like, I forgot to ask, what's your name? And she said, my friend's, he's like, what did she say? She said, Jeannie, but some of my friends call me Shauna. And he goes, okay, Jeannie.
And then in the background,
she's like, oh my.
And in the background, that song,
Shauna.
It's so perfect. And later it starts
Yeah.
saying genie. So I don't know what the deal with that is.
I don't know either.
But I was like, okay, that was perfect.
yeah. So now it's a race,
Yeah. So
race till the end.
so he's running. She's
Yeah.
driving. He's cutting through the neighborhood. She almost hits him.
yeah, yeah,
He stops in front of the car, looks at her. All
yeah.
the
They
mom's,
make eye contact.
The mom's papers go flying, so she doesn't see him.
Yeah,
And then so he keeps running. So he's cutting, and then all of a sudden his dad's also driving home at the same time. I guess everybody comes home exactly at 6 o'clock.
6 p.m. on the nose. Almost fucking destroys that student driver car. Do you remember?
Oh
that?
yeah.
I do that. So that little like so that scene, his dad is going through a stop sign and a student driver car blows the stop sign and his dad has to like slam on the brakes, but he gives the little like finger gun out the window. Do you remember that? I do that all the time,
Like the
constantly. That little like if someone does something like a dipshit move.
There
or
you
something
go.
Like that. Yeah, that's just a little funny thing.
and then he's running next to his dad.
Yeah. He
And
looks
he
over,
looks
he sees
over.
his dad, cuts into the lawn. It's basically just this big chase home. Or not, it's not really a chase, it's a race home. And then I guess the crescendo is when they make it home.
Yeah, he hits the trampoline in the neighbor's house into the yard, gets to the back door, and the key's not there. And then you see the raggedy Rooney.
The raggedy Rooney.
His foot, he puts his foot down.
And he goes looking for something.
So he's about to bust him dead to rights that he was not sick
Not at
today.
school.
He's about to rat to his mom. He's about to be, it's all this trouble. And then Jeannie comes down and saves the day.
Yeah. So she comes down and is like, "Oh, thank you so much for taking care of my brother. Like we've been looking for him." And she goes, "Oh, and by the way, Mr. Rooney, you left your wallet here." And his face is just like, "Fuck! Like I can't do anything about this."
Like a dong.
Yeah, the sound effect. So he's like, "Fuck! I can't do anything about this." And then
said-
Ferris goes up to bed. Right? I guess that's next.
Yeah, he
She
gets
bed.
up to bed. And then his parents are also coming up at like seconds later. The house
There's
is
9 people going up one flight of stairs, and they don't. None of them know about it.
and
It's
the
wild.
house is full of get well soon flowers. Like
Yeah.
everywhere you look.
Yeah.
So he's just gotten get well soon flowers the entire day.
Yeah,
And then he gets into bed, rain time, pulls the cover up, but realizes that his snoring thing's still happening. So lucky shot throws a baseball across the room, hits the
Pauses,
stereo
yeah,
off
stops it,
at the right exact second.
and his parents walk in. Man, that's so good. I love that. And then he's basically like, "Shit, I did it. I
Like,
did.
how do you
We
feel,
did
Ferris? He's like 150% better. And right back to his goo goo gaga.
it." Yeah, he's like, "Papa." So stupid. Yeah, and that's kind of the end of the movie.
Yeah, he calls back to the line. He says, "I said it before, and I'll say it again. Life moves fast." And then he hits the quote.
Yeah, and he's like, if you don't stop and look around if you don't stop and look around, like you're gonna miss something.
and then he smiles, and then you hear the "oh yeah."
Yeah, and then it's just right into the end of it, which is awesome. I did love. I'm really big on like first line and last line in the movie. I really like that he starts off the movie by being like, you're only here for, and I think that's kind of like he ties it all together in the end like that, where it's like life does move really fast. Like you have to take time for yourself, and then he has the fucking wild day, and then it just ends with him like hands behind his head in bed, and he's like, "Ugh, all right." And he's like I said, life moves fast. Like you got to stop and look around every once in a while. And I just think that's again a testament to John Hughes' writing, which in a fucking week wrote this movie. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think there's if you keep playing the movie
There's a post
after all the
scene.
credits, is there like in a towel or something? Like he has it in his hair. He's like out of the shower.
Well, you get Rooney first.
Yeah, that's right.
gets it-
Schlepping his ass home.
He's walking home, and the bus pulls up. He's like,
Yeah.
"You want to ride?" Or
Yeah.
the bus driver's like, "You want to ride?" So then he gets on.
And it's all the
He
kids
said-
just
said him-
fucking staring at him.
The kid says to him as he sits down, "I bet you never smelled a real school bus before."
What a dumb line. I love
And there's
that.
a Save Ferris binder. So like that, I love how that's just everywhere.
Save
the
Ferris
Ferris
is
thing
all over
has
the place, yeah.
he has spread like wildfire.
Yeah, it is really.
Yeah, and then the post scene, I call it, is what you
Yeah.
were talking about, where he's got the towel in his head. He's like,
He's
"Wait,
like
are
the
you
movie's
still here?
done.
It's over. Go home. Go." And then it
Go.
actually ends.
Yeah. So again, that's just like another breaking the third wall, like
Yeah.
talking to the camera, which I think is really cool. And that's that's Ferris Bueller's Day Off in a nutshell. I mean, there's so many things that we just glossed over. That definitely take the time if you haven't seen it before. So yeah, that was Ferris Bueller. Did you want to talk about anything else? Do you have any other quotes that you wanted to?
Oh yeah, I have probably a couple quotes, but a couple of things. So again, with how he wrote it in 1 week.
Yeah,
the movie obviously takes place in one day, so they only used one outfit. So the original cut was almost 3 hours.
Okay.
So a lot of it was production cutting.
Yeah,
but they were able to cut everything easily because
it was just the one outfit.
Everyone was always wearing one outfit.
That's
so
solid.
Like
yeah,
no matter how they shot it.
Yeah, the continuity was like
they could change it,
like, swap it,
which is probably what you were talking about, where they made the kiss scene longer.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
But supposedly this is based on, and I don't know how true this is, but supposedly the character is based on his neighbor Ed McNally's life. Well, I guess after John Hughes passed away, he put like a memoir out about this, that he had a friend out also named Bueller who was habitually absent from school.
Yeah, and
he actually had to do a reverse mileage on his dad's Cadillac Eldorado, purple Eldorado, that like ended up being like putting it 10,000 miles the wrong way.
Oh, geez.
Which
that's
I
wild. Don't
know if that... apparently, that's the memoirs. I have no idea if that's actually true. I did as much homework on that as I could. Yeah. I have no idea.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
There's a couple articles that said it. Supposedly it's true.
And the internet doesn't lie ever, so take that for what it's worth.
And I wanted to add that the song that they're playing at the Art Institute is the Smiths cover. Yeah. Please, please, please let me get what I want. I knew you love that. That's why I figured that on there.
I appreciate that.
And then the Gordie Howe jersey that Cameron was wearing the whole time.
Yeah.
John Hughes is like a childhood fan of Gordie Howe, and Gordie Howe sent that.
Oh, really?
He like hand sent that for Cameron to wear, which I thought was really cool. Oh, and speaking of Jaws, there's license plate stuff that kind of reminds me of the Jaws talk. So
I did note the license.
His license plate for the Ferrari is Nervous, NRVOUS, but there's also other ones, and this I only know because I saw it in notes somewhere. But there's homages to other John Hughes movies. There's a Vacation one, VCTN.
That's cool.
Breakfast
Are these
Club.
Just like on cars?
They're like on cars, I guess, throughout it. A TVC for the Breakfast Club, M-Mom for Mr. Mom.
That's so cool.
And then a 4 FBDO for Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of cool.
License plates, man. That's been a theme for some reason.
All right, one last little ditty.
Okay,
and that's all I got. Okay, so Donka Shane. So he had to rehearse that for the crazy scene later on. But because he was rehearsing it, when they did the shower scene, he was like, Matthew Broderick was like, just started singing that.
Yeah, and like
just was like, oh, I guess I should just throw something in here. Ad-libbed it, and then like they weren't recording. And John Hughes was like, "Oh no, you got to do that. You got to do that again." So that's how that became. Like,
that's cool.
How they floated through the whole movie is just by accident. They're like, "Oh no, we got to do that."
That is
just so
cool.
funny. He's got his little mohawk. Like,
yeah. What is it? He also has a pretty good line there, and he was like, what was the test that he was supposed to be taking? It was like
European socialism.
Yeah, he's like I'm not European. He's like, I don't care if they're social. What is it? Anarchist or something. He's like, that still doesn't change the fact that I don't have a car.
He said they could be fascist anarchists. It still doesn't change the fact that I own a car.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Yeah, that's about all I have. I think we covered it front to back. Just go watch John Hughes movies.
All of them, all at once, everywhere, all at once, whatever that movie is. So we are. That's kind of the end of this one. Just wanted to give a quick little shout out to ourselves a little bit. We are on social media if you guys are enjoying it. If you want to leave us some feedback, we can get us some 5-star reviews on your streaming service of choice. We are on Spotify, we're on Twitter, Instagram, Apple, all that kind of good stuff. I thought I'd just throw that out there. Did you have any final things that you wanted to shout out?
No, just
good to go.
Watch movies, hit us up on social media with questions, with comments, with stuff, just movie talk.
Concerns.
I was going to say concerns, but please don't be concerned. Yeah, don't be concerned. Just have a good time. Watch some movies.
Have the day you deserve. Anyway. All right. Until next time.